What's up, y'all? It's your man Ernest, or You Love Ernest, back again with another episode of the Ernest Thoughts Podcast. For the video listeners, watchers out there, don't worry about the box in the back. It's actually my pull-up rack that I just got, and I'm gonna set it up after I'm done doing all of this. Um, ain't no bodies in there, but you don't like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, support the podcast. It might be your body in there. I don't know. Anyways, that's a joke, by the way. You got to say that stuff nowadays. But, anyways, we're back again with another episode of the Earnest Thoughts Podcast. Let's get it, audio listeners. That wasn't for you, or at least that description. But the rest of this episode is for you. So, I wanted to talk about Jarrod Carmichael, share my thoughts about Jarrod Carmichael, um, because man. So, for those who don't know who Jarrod Carmichael is, he is a comedian. He is an actor. I believe he's a director as well. He's in the entertainment business. He's primarily more so known for comedy, so comedian. He had a show. I forget what channel this show was. I believe it was on Showtime, called Carmichael Show. Um, or The Carmichael Show. This was a comedy, and it was supposed to be loosely, like very, very, very loosely based off of his life when he was living a straight man. Let's just say that way. But it was very loosely based on his life. I was a fan of the show. I really enjoyed that show. That was my introduction to him, my introduction to Lil Rel Howery, my introduction to Tiffany Haddish as well. It wasn't my introduction to Loretta Devine. It wasn't my introduction to David Allen Greer. David Allen Greer is actually my favorite comedian. So that's my guy right there, or at least one of my faves of all time. So that's my guy. So I've been knew who he was. And I believe I forget the woman's name, the actress who played his Jarrod's love interest in the show. I believe her name is Amber something. I forget her last name, but I believe her first name is Amber. Let me put the brightness up on this ma. Uh-huh. Yeah, now we got it. But yeah. Um, it was just my introduction to a lot of great people on the show, and again to Jarrod Carmichael. And I became a fan. I became a fan of his because one, I thought he was funny. I enjoyed the show. And I was like many others who enjoyed the show, was disappointed when we found out that it was canceled. It was a great show. It was a great show. It was a short-lived show. It was a great show. I enjoyed it. After that, it just seemed as though Jarrod was just doing a lot of stand-up. Since then, I mean, he's a comedian, so that's what he is going to gravitate toward. And even with that, I was still rooting for him, because I was a fan. It comes out later on, like not later on, but like sometime after all of that, he then comes out of the closet and says that he is a gay man, right? Nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. That's his prerogative. That's not where my fandom stopped. Okay. He did his monologue. It was one of the award shows he actually hosted, where he pretty much went off on everybody. And I was like, that's my guy. That's still my guy, you know? Um, I enjoyed that as well. Where he started to become cringy was um when he started to do what a lot of black gay or gay people of color, the queer people of color do in Hollywood, is to start and outside of Hollywood as well. Let me take a sip. What they start to do is to align themselves with whiteness, right? They let the white gays and the white liberals start to run their life. And anybody who knows about the separation, the difference between within the queer community of just white gays and just everybody else, you would know or at least be familiar with whether you're of the community or not, you know people within the community. Um, this is a like the relationship dynamics is different, much like relationship dynamics amongst race and other communities outside of the queer community as well. Um, and with that being said, just like non just like straight black or straight uh people of color. I don't like that term, but I'm gonna use it in this sense because it's the only term I could think of, and it makes sense. But just like straight and straight black and people of color, when they get around a lot of white folks, they tend to start doing things or behaving in ways that's is to appease them, to appease white folks. Um, Especially liberals, white liberals. It's not just white liberals that get it's not just white liberals that get black folks and non black folks to react this way. Because it's white conservatives as well. You know, you see black conservatives act a plum flu when that was a throwback to a episode I did a couple weeks ago, but acted plum fool, you know, um to you know, these conservatives that they're around and start switching up and start just acting and behaving in ways that they either normally wouldn't, or you know, just being people that they compromising, essentially compromising themselves to be in proximity to whiteness. You know what I'm saying? Jarrod Carmichael sadly is no different at this point in time. He has shown that um, he is willing to do that in order to garner white attention. But I see that it's not working in his favor as much as he would want it to work in his favor. I will talk more about that, but right now I'm going to talk more about his interaction with Tyler the Creator, and then add more thoughts about a conversation that I wanted to have regarding Jarrod Carmichael and the Black queer community in general. So, before I get into the rest of that, I want to talk about the interaction he had with Tyler the Creator. As I've stated before, Jarrod Carmichael did have a show on Showtime that was canceled. Now he has a show called The Jarrod Carmichael Show. Not The Carmichael Show, but this time it's his full name, The Jarrod Carmichael Show. And this time it's on Max, or formerly HBO Max, right? So different network, um, different show, but nonetheless, um, he is. This show is supposed to be set up like a excuse me, a reality show, right? It's supposed to be set up like a reality show, a scripted reality show, unlike in the sense that he's claiming that, you know, this time it's more so based on his life, his reality, than the comedy show that was The Carmichael Show. The Carmichael Show. The Carmichael Show again was loosely based off of his life, like very loosely. Now at least again his life as a straight man when he was not living as a gay man, right? But this time it is this show, or this go around, this show is supposed to be um you know, very much referencing his life now. And nothing wrong with that idea, but I am going to talk about this first episode with again this interaction he had with music artist Tyler the Creator. So, to put it, you know, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched that episode. I don't watch the show, but I did check into the first episode just so I would be able to know what the heck is going on and stuff. So, but spoiler alert for those who are interested in watching it yourself, it is what it is, right? So, he invites Tyler, well, he being Jarrod. Jarrod sends a text to Tyler the Creator, right? Tyler the Creator. He wants Tyler to be his date for the Emmys, right? I believe he's going to the Emmys, and uh, that may have been the award show he hosted, but they're reenacting this situation to where he invited Tyler the Creator to join him on the as his date as on the Emmys red carpet. Tyler pretty much blows Jarrod off, and not in the sexual way that Jarrod may have wanted Tyler to blow him off as, but he blows him off in a sense that he pretty much denies going with him. He's like, no, I got this other thing that I got to do, but congratulations to you for, being invited to the Emmys. Um, Jarrod, and it wasn't like an instant response. Like Jarrod sends the text to Tyler, but Tyler waits a couple days after he waits like, yeah, a couple days just to respond back to said message. While that is going on, Jarrod Carmichael is on Grinder. For those who don't know what Grinder is, it's pretty much a sex app where gay men meet up and they fuck. Like, I've said this plenty of times before on the podcast. I mentioned it before on the podcast at least. Um, but that's what it is. He's on Grinder. He's meeting up with dudes. They doing what they do on Grinder. You know what I'm saying? So within that time span of waiting for a response back from his crush, right? Remember, this is some dude that he's professing his love for, essentially. His crush and his deep feelings for. Um, Yet he's going around being promiscuous with strange men um that he just met on Grinder. Like, these are not men that he's having sex with in the past, that he's had sex with in the past or had any prior relationships with. These are men that he literally just met on this app. Now, grown folks are grown folks. They do what the hell they want to do. I bring that up in a sense of saying, like, you're in love with your best friend, essentially, because he considered Tyler his best friend. And it's like you're in love with your best friend and you're going around fucking other strangers. Me personally, if someone is in love with me, yet they're still out here doing the do with other people, it's an instant no. Even if I were to entertain the fact that, these feelings that you have, I'm, I thought about taking things further than a friendship. The simple fact of the matter is, you out here doing other things with other people. And like I mentioned, I believe it was last week. So last week or some other way, one of these recent recordings of this episode where I mentioned that your sex might just be just sex to you, but to some folks out there, it's more than just sex. There's emotional connection. It may not be super deep. You might not even know it's a super deep connection, but eventually it turns into something deep, and it's just more than just whatever, right? Um, Again, not everyone's how wired like that, but again, to me personally, it's like if I was in Tyler's shoes, the answer would still be no, despite the fact that the rumors are Tyler don't even like black guys, let alone dark skinned black guys. But the same goes for Jarrod Carmichael, anyways. Anyways, with that being said, um, my issue here is not, oh my God, ew, he went after Tyler the Creator. Oh my God, I'm a fan of Tyler the Creator. I hope he's not gay. The issue here that I have is the meeting that they had was very, very much uncomfortable. Um, it was awkward, and I get, again, that was supposed to be the joke, but I am looking at it from this standpoint. What if a straight comedian tried to make that same joke or had that same scenario and played it out on camera with a woman? I know a woman named Tyler, so we're going to use the name Tyler as well for this scenario that I'm making up, to where there's a male, let's just say there's a male named Jarrod, and he's straight. and the Tyler in this situation is a woman. Okay. What if that same scenario between Jarrod and Tyler played out, but just different gender for one of the people? For Tyler, obviously. I don't think people, and I see people giving Jarrod Carmichael backlash. Um, in fact, I see more backlash for what Jarrod did than anything. The only person defending Jarrod for this is Jarrod, not even the very same white folks that he wants to, you know, be a slave to and be around. They're not even coming to his aid, and that's the thing I'm going to talk to a lot of the black gays about when I speak about this point later on. But you know, this very people you all want to be all up under don't even be defending y'all at all. But my problem is, had this been a man make a woman that uncomfortable, let's just say again, a man professes his love to a woman. Um, they were friends, right? He considers her a best friend, or whatever that relationship is. It starts, well, it's a friendship relationship. Let me put it that way. This man says, "Hey, I've been feeling this way about you, and what's up? Can we do something more?" And the female makes it clear that she is not attracted to the man in that manner. Full stop. Full stop. There should not be, a lot of people will say there should not be any more pursuing. It should stop there. If the man is not okay with the woman's response, his response should not be to continue to push, try to pressure her, guilt trip her into saying yes. you know it should be something respectful, and he should just move on. And my thing is, I see the discussions behind this interaction between Jarrod Carmichael and Tyler, the Creator. And although I do agree with the majority of what I've seen, what I haven't seen yet is this discussion that it is very much important as well that men in the situation, that other men like in the situation that Tyler, the Creator, found himself in, because I believe this was a real situation that was just played out on camera again, because for his show's purpose. But again, this is supposed to be based on true events and true stories and stuff. So this may have really truly happened between Jarrod Carmichael and Tyler, the Creator. And at one point in time, their friendship um there was a rift because Jarrod had a crush on Tyler, and Tyler did not reciprocate those feelings for him. And Jarrod thought it was weird that Tyler started to act distant because Jarrod kept trying to push Tyler to have those same feelings. And obviously, when you in a situation like that, with whether you're gay, straight, or not, if you're in a situation like that with somebody, you're not gonna want to associate with them. You're not gonna want to be around them, talk to them. Things will get weird. So yeah, I mean, I don't blame Tyler at all for, if there was a rift, there was a moment where Tyler was like, "Yeah, I don't want to, I'm gonna distance myself from him. He's better than me because I'm the type that will just cut you off completely. Like, I wouldn't even give it a whole, you know what, I'm gonna distance myself. It'd be no, dog, like we done. Like, absolutely not. This is not how I feel, and you don't want to respect that. Get out of my life. Like, get out of here, dog." That's how it's gonna be. That's me. That's me though. So it's like, I know a lot of people are not liking myself, but that's how I operate. I gave you your response. You shot your shot. It was blocked. So be it. Plenty of other hoops out there for you to shoot your shot at. All right, like, get out of here. You're just not going to get, you're not going to get play on this part. Pause. But like, with all that being said, I did not see like a defense of how awkward this situation is for men as well. whether it be a woman in the shoes of Jarrod Carmichael, or, again, a man in the shoes, even though there was a man in the shoes of Tyler, the creator, because he's a man, but, whether it be, especially if there's other men that has dealt with what Tyler has. Because I can tell you, I've dealt with that situation in the past. But again, I'm the type that's like, no, it's like I don't instantly say no. And if you want, and the simple fact that you even professed your feelings for me means that we are done. It wasn't just straight up no, I don't see you like that. But the other women did not want to respect that, or at least not all of them did not want to respect that. They kept wanting to push the issue or make it a situation to where I am somehow being the bad guy, the bad person, simply because of whatever, right? Um and I had to let it be known, like, listen, fine then. I'm just gonna cut you off. Like, it's one of those situations to where, like, you can't expect people to, well, you can't expect things to stay the same when you made things different by adding on another layer to what you want this relationship dynamic to be. You know? That's just how it is. And things change and people change and relationships change. So you can't you can't expect things to be the same when you bring something like that, like deeper feelings into a friendship. And if those feelings are not reciprocated by the other person, whether it be the same gender or not, or no gender, as some folks say they don't have, you can't really be upset at things not being the same. I mean, you can be upset, you can feel however you want, but you can't don't be an idiot about it. Don't be a dummy about it. Don't act like, why, why can't things just be the same? Because you made it different. If you wanted things to be the same, you should have never tried to pursue something different with that person. You wanted to pursue something different. You put it out there, and now you got this different outcome, you know? That's what happened with that, And again, the big message that I want to say within that situation, in regards of him going at Tyler in the way that he did, is one, it wasn't funny, it wasn't entertaining at all. I don't know what he was trying to. I have a feeling this is what he was trying to do. And I was going to talk about this on Patreon, but I'll talk about Patreon in a few seconds, right? Or a few minutes or so. But my feeling is this. I think he tried to make he did that in the hopes of trying to make Tyler look bad, to try to get the court of public opinion on his side being Jarrod. Jarrod tried to make Tyler look bad and say, look, he turned me down, guys. Oh my God, he turned me down, and have people go at Tyler so much so online, because you know how vicious people can be online. He tried to get people to go at Tyler to the point where Tyler just says, "Fine, fuck it, I'll be with you because I'm tired of getting bullied online." Which is sad because if you got to do that, if you got to get the court of public opinion to bully somebody into wanting to be with you, yikes, yikes, yikes. You can't get somebody to naturally want to be with you. You have to guilt trip them into doing that. That says more about you than it does about the individual you're trying to guilt trip. That's number one. How is this guilt trip is going to work? Well, a lot of the times men are told that we aren't allowed to have preferences. When we have and express preferences, we're called shallow, right? And amongst other things synonymous with that title. When women express that they have a preference, it's not being called shallow or anything. It's just that. And a lot of these preferences are shallow preferences, like certain looks, certain monetary uh you know expectations, other expectations as well that they have. A lot of it is indeed shallow. A lot of it has to do with material or exterior. A lot of it doesn't necessarily have to do with how a person is on the inside at all. I'm not saying that's the case with all women, but again, when you look online about the discourse around the discourse about dating and all this stuff, and you see a lot of women talk about their preferences, a lot of it is shallow. You might not want to consider it shallow because you fit the bill, but a lot of it is shallow in that sense. And I'm using the word shallow not more so as an insult, but as pretty much a descriptor to what it is, because it is that. But at the end of the day, they have the right to say, I want a man who is X feet tall. I want a man who makes X amount of money. I want a man who wears X amount of clothes. I want a man who it's a it might sound shallow to you, but if that is what they want, that is what they want. But in the same light, men have that same right. And like I said, many times when we express our preferences, we're called shallow, if especially if the person who is calling us shallow is someone who doesn't fit the bill, who doesn't fit our preferences, whether they be shallow or not. So I think that Jarrod, knowing that, he figured that I'm going to publicly put it out there that I want Tyler, the creator. If he denies me, one or two things are going to happen, or at least that's what he thought was going to happen. One or two things is going to happen. Um, or not one of two, but just one thing was really going to happen. Tyler is going to get publicly shamed so bad because he turned down this gay man who professed his love for this man, pretty much. So much so that Tyler is going to then say that he is willing to be in a relationship with me simply because he doesn't want to continue to be beat down by the court of the by the pitchfork mob, essentially, right? And as I stated again, why I'm talking about this is imagine if the situation was different. Imagine if Tyler was a female in this situation and a man tried to publicly get the pitchfork mob to attack this woman, a woman, and force her to say yes to his advances. It'd be wrong. So the discourse that I wanted to add into this situation was pretty much that point. As I stated before, a lot of people are saying the same things, but a lot of with the same talking points that I'm hearing and seeing, I do agree with in regards. So I don't feel the need to repeat after that. I've stated this on this podcast before. If you feel as though that I should be talking about things. Yeah, there are certain things that I typically miss, certain things I don't talk about because I don't care about. But then there are times where I don't mention it because I feel as though that it's a point that's already been made abundance of times already that I don't need to be another voice parroting what 12 other people already said or 100 other people already said. Um, it's just that, you know what I'm saying? It's like I can just point you to the people or the person that made the point the best to me and say, if you want to know how I feel, this person or these people actually stated this, pretty much spoke my mind for me. And therefore, I'm not going to, say anything. If you want to know how I feel, simply just follow their words. And that's how I feel. Follow what they said about it because that's my thing. Um, so again, I brought up my point, got that across, but that's not the last of what I have to say to Mr. and about Jarrod Carmichael. Ah, well, I'm going to ignore that text till now. Anyways, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, anyways, back to Jarrod Carmichael. So This is about him again because this is not just this Tyler the Creator situation found himself in in the news and people, yeah, talking shit in quotation marks about him. Um it's another thing that he's got going on. So he recently did what's a few other things. This man can't catch a break, and it's all his fault though. It is really truly all his fault, to be honest with you. And I'm gonna talk about all of it here. This episode might be long, but I ain't got nothing else to do today, so I can record this all day if I wanted to. So let's get it. Anyways, um, we're gonna talk about Jarrod, since we're talking about his sexuality, we're going to talk about statements he made. I'm going to say statements because a lot of comedians hide behind it's a joke when they really be making just statements, broad statements that's in their mind. Listen, I know, I know. I'm not a comedian, but as a comedic writer, all I'm going to say is I know the difference between a joke and saying something behind a joke. And I'm gonna just leave it right there. But anyways, um he went on and he made a statement pretty much saying that he is into slave play. Now, Jarrod Carmichael is in a relationship. He's has been in a relationship with a white man for, since he came out, essentially. So maybe a few years, maybe even longer than that, maybe even before he came out. I don't know the ins and outs. All I know is who he is and who his, or the race at least, of his partner. Um, so people who dislike interracial relationships, people who dislike queer relationships, especially if they're interracial, of course, they're chiming in on Jarrod Carmichael's statement. But they're not the only one. In fact, they're not even a majority of the people who have a problem with Jarrod's statements about being into slave play. Now, this didn't surprise me, and I said this on X. This didn't surprise me because when he actually has made statements like this in the past. When he was pretending to be straight or living a life as a straight man, I should just say, um, he made those very comments about the half white woman who was his love interest on the show. Now, Amber, whatever her last name is not really his love interest, or they didn't necessarily really date. Um, she's actually married. She's married and everything. Like not to Jarrod, wasn't married to Jarrod. She's married to somebody else. But nonetheless, she just simply played his love interest on the show, the Carmichael show. But she's a mixed woman. She's half black and half white. He made comments about how he pretty much liked slave play and how he liked her white side to obviously be his slave master. Okay. I like the show, but it's not a joke that I like. Um, so even when he was living a life of a straight man, he still fetishized the fact that the only time he can have or not the only time I would say, but some of the few times he would enjoy having sexual access to white people, white women or white men, white people, was when he pretended to be their slaves in the bedroom. So when it then came out that he again made a statement like that about him and his white male partner, it didn't necessarily surprise me for one for two reasons. One, because of what I just said, and two, well, because black gays love slave play. Slave play. How dare you say that? Like I said, this was like Patreon exclusive type stuff. you know, the thing is, my Patreon is being not under investigate, going through the approval process of, I guess, whatever. When you recreate a Patreon, right, account, or you just create a Patreon account, they want to check into the approval processes or whatever. Patreon has some process, right? They didn't give me a timestamp. I don't know when they're going to let me know if my account is approved or not. So I decided, instead of waiting until I get in that, yeah, thumbs up. You get a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. No, hey, look at that. Oh shit! I didn't know two thumbs up gave you all of that. Hey, video listeners. I mean, video watchers, listeners. They getting spoiled over here. But nah, what was I saying? That little celebration distracted me. But so I did not know. I do not know. Let me put it that way. How long this approval process is going to be for Patreon? All I was told was it's I will get an email with when they come up with an answer of approve or disapproval. I did not want to wait until I got an answer for me to talk about what I have to say here. So I'm going to say here. And this is the type of stuff I'm going to let y'all know right now, at least this second half of what I said. That first half, clearly you will find me say these things on the free Earnest Thoughts podcast, wherever you can listen to it. But the paid Earnest Thoughts podcast, as in the Patreon, if it gets approved, this is the type of material you will see there. So I'm giving y'all a taste now. If y'all like it, subscribe if that is the case. If not, then I'll just continue being raw dogging over here. It is what it is. I want to speak my mind. That's the big thing. You know what I'm saying? If I get canceled for it, you can't stop me. Anyways, so as I've stated before, Jarrod's comments did not surprise me because, number one, he's made comments like that in the past, even as a straight man. Number two, because black gays love slave play. Yeah. Now, clearly not all, but if you are familiar with the queer community, if you're familiar with black gays, especially whether you have them in your family, whether you're friends with them, whether you yourself are one of them, and you have associates with them, whatever the case is, there's a lot of people within that community, especially these liberal places like Boston. That's how I know this shit. These liberal cities or just liberal states where not only interracial relations is heavily celebrated within the queer community, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it seems as though the black folks, there's a pursuit to only date white folks. Again, not all, but a big enough a big enough portion to say, hey, I see y'all niggas. I see what the fuck y'all got going on over there. You know? Um, this is a thing that happens within the community. They're gonna be mad as heck as me for even, you know, expelling that, but it's true. It's true. And it's disgusting. So if you weren't doing anything wrong, you wouldn't be ashamed of me or anybody saying it, whether it's somebody in the community or outside of the community saying. You would not be afraid of me saying what I'm saying right now. A lot of y'all are into that stuff because you're willing to give up your dignity, your pride, and compromise yourself to simply just be in close proximity to whiteness. Even and I mean close proximity meaning literally and physically, like in the bedroom. Which is crazy because there's a ton of black folks that didn't need to shuck and jive, whether literally or figuratively shuck and jive, to have access to white folks, sexual access, business access, whatever the case is. If that's your thing, to anybody, not just white folks, to anybody. You didn't need to do that to get that. but you did it to get it. And now you're upset, and you better not be, but now you're upset and you want to put me in that box back there because I'm exposing it. Well, let me tell you something. You're upset because you know I'm right. Jarrod Carmichael can get on the Breakfast Club all he wants and talk about how people just didn't get the punchline. He claims that, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but he claims that the joke wasn't necessarily about him being him and his white partner doing slave sex, slave play, which was rape. If we were really being, it wasn't rape, it was rape. You know what I'm saying? Like you could put grapes in the bedroom while y'all doing that. That doesn't make it rape. It makes it rape. So let's get that out the way. Like I said, you better hope Patreon approves my stuff because oof, YouTube might take this down, but I'm gonna keep this up. I'm gonna keep this up. But anyways, um, that wasn't consensual. Let me put it that way. But you and your partner pretending to have non-consensual sex and your partner being a slave master and you being a slave. Yeah, like you can try to spin it however you want to and try to say the joke wasn't about that. The joke was supposed to be this idea of me celebrating how intelligent my boyfriend is because he reads so much books and I don't read as many books as he does. And he makes me feel inferior or less intelligent because he reads more than I do. That was supposed to be the joke, not about slave play. That's not what you said, my nigga. That is not what you said, and that is not the joke. Jarrod does this thing, and he even did this thing back then, but before he came out. But he does this thing where he is so used to being the supposed smartest person in the room because he surrounded himself by a bunch of idiots or about a bunch of white yes men and yes women who aren't going to tell him no because they exploit him, and he's okay with being exploited. That he believes that, oh, I just said this thing and this joke went over people's head. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Like I stated when I first started to talk about that, they're talking about this. There are folks who are idiots and they're just mad because Jarrod has a white partner. There are folks who are idiots and are just mad because he's in a same-sex relationship, especially with a man of a different race. But that's not everybody. That is not, you can clearly look at comments from people and you can tell the difference. You surely can. Because I can, and this is not even my relationship. But I can tell the difference between who is mad at Jarrod for very good reason and who's just mad at Jarrod because he's with a white man. Well, who's just mad at Jarrod that he's with a man and they're and extra mad that this man is white. I can acknowledge these things because I can tell the difference between the vitriol that he's getting. But that's not everybody. As I said, from the backlash that I've been viewing that he's been getting, the majority of it is not even the senseless stuff of we don't like you because you're with a white person or we don't like you because you're with a man. There's some of that there, but that's not, I'm not even going to put a percentage on it, but trust and believe that's not the majority. The majority of folks are like, this shit isn't funny. And you're doing the thing that black queer folks do. A lot of black folks and non-queer black folks do this too. Let's not get it twisted. Don't try to make it seem as though I'm picking on the black queer community or the queer community. No, because I've seen black folks, as I stated when I talked about when I first started this topic, a lot of black folks tend to do this when they get in these white circles. They start to lose themselves or to make fun of themselves. And unfortunately, none of these white folks that they are around are the type of white folks that's going to say, hey, man, that's not funny. Hey, man, you shouldn't say that about yourself. Hey, man, like, why you think that you have to be self-deprecating for us to enjoy your company? Unfortunately, both on the liberal side and the conservative side, when these black folks, and the non-black folks as well, because this is the problem within the queer community, the queer community, queer people of color community. When y'all get within these white spaces, y'all want to be as super self-deprecating as possible, because you're like, I made it here, I'm with around all these white folks and blah blah blah, and that means that I'm going to be a success. I'm going to, and like I said, all this backlash he's getting, none of your friends, your quote unquote friends, are coming out in your defense. None of them. Absolutely none of them. Whereas when I see black folks who have predominantly black friends around them, or black people around them, whether they're right or wrong, when they come out and defend themselves, their people are coming and defending them as well. In fact, or there are cases where that individual, again, whether they are right or wrong, they don't need to say anything because they got all these people within their circle already coming out in their defense. So, not for nothing, like y'all could try to distance yourself from black folks all you want. One thing you can't say is that we aren't gonna have your back when we see fit. Again, some of the times when I see people defending folks, I'm like, y'all are just as wrong as the person you're defending. But I respect the fact that you're coming out in defense. Every time in these situations, I never see the white friends, the white lovers, the white anybody of these black folks, of these people of color folks come out and defend that individual. They stay back, they stay silent because they're looking out for their own asses. They don't truly care about you. Number one, the ones who truly do care about you would do as I was saying moments ago, tell you to stop doing that self-deprecating BS. Tell you that it's not cool that you do that and that you feel as though you need to do that around white folks. Those are the folks who care about you, not the ones who laugh at your jokes, not the ones who who allow you to say these things, and definitely not the ones who stay silent when you're out here alone looking goofy as hell, defending yourself, whether you have the right to do so, whether you're in the right, because everyone has the right to defend themselves, but whether you're in the right or you're in the wrong. You know what I'm saying? They don't let you out here look goofy as hell, but Jarrod, you looking goofy as hell. You can't defend yourself properly. And again, the very people that you try to impress so much so, the white liberals that hyped you up, told you to put your queerness before your race, are the very people who are not coming into your defense. That sucks. But that is not the last comment that I have to say about Jarrod Carmichael. Again, this segment might be long, but I'm going to make sure I say everything I got to say, whatever. This episode might be long. I'm going to say whatever I have to say, man. Now, he found himself in the news again. You know what I'm saying? It's sad. It's sad when you have someone as talented as a Jarrod Carmichael not get attention for actually being talented, talented of a comedian, this, that, and the third. And now I know he and a few of his defenders are going to say, well, that's people. They only focus on the negative. No, that's all Jarrod. That's all Jarrod. Jarrod, not saying that he had to hide his sexuality. Absolutely not. But he did not have to try to use and abuse it as many black and many queer people of color do when they finally share that, hey, I'm queer and look at me, and you have to give me all these things because I'm queer. You have to only say nice things about me because I'm queer. Even queer white folks do it too. So it's not just a queer people of color thing that they do. But again, we're talking about Jarrod Carmichael, a queer man of color, or a black man who is queer, right? Gay, queer, whatever, right? You want to call it. But this is I see through the ploy, and I'm just going to call it out for what it is. But you know, you tried to force that, and then it didn't work. Prior to all of this, though, he called out Dave Chappelle for his comments on the trans community, right? I had my things about it. I already said it on this podcast. Y'all go back and listen to those episodes, right? But Jarrod Carmichael had comments about Dave's comments as well. Jarrod's comments, I will say, in a way, mirrored my comments. So I'm not disagreeing with what Jarrod actually said. My problem is he only came out and said something about Dave Chappelle's comments when he came out himself. He came out being Jarrod Carmichael right after he came out and said, I'm gay. He started doing stand-up specials, right? They started, we've got to give the gay black man his fame now, right? That's when they started paying attention to him. They being white Hollywood. So they started to pay more attention to him when he came out as a gay man. He ends up getting a stand-up special because of his because of his white liberal queer ideology and following and toe sucking self, but because he's a black queer man, right? So, because of all of that, and yes, I'm saying it's because of that, they wanted to give him a stand up special. Within the stand up special, he goes in on Dave Chappelle. He goes in on Dave and pretty much talks about how Dave was wrong for the statements he made in his stand up specials constantly, and it seemed as though Dave kept constantly going at the trans community, right? Again, statements that Jarrod made statements that I personally don't disagree with, but I do have a problem with the timing of him saying it. Dave made those specials at least at this point, 3 years ago at this point. He has three specials, but the last one was about like 3 years ago. Okay. Prior to that, the other two were even longer than 3 years ago. Okay. Within that time span, let's just say within the last, let's just say within the last 3 to 5 years, the last 3 to 5 years, not within, now, but from 3 years ago up to 5 years ago. Jarrod Carmichael could have said anything then. He didn't. He waited until last year, or at least sometime earlier on this year, but he waited until last year, 1 year ago, when he came out to then make statements pretty much punching down on Dave Chappelle for him punching down on the trans community. Now, people wait to share their opinions on things all the time. Heck, you're looking at a guy, you're listening to a guy who waits to share his opinions on things all the time. I've never waited 3 to 5 years to share my opinion on something. If I had something to say, I had something to say. And then my thing is, if it seemed as though I waited a long time to share my thoughts on something, here's how I operate. Number one, I operate on a schedule. You know what I'm saying? I take notes on every episode. How I decide what I want to talk about is literally I take notes on my phone about it. I say this week I'm going to talk about this. This week I'm going to talk about this. This week I'm going to talk about this, and so on and so forth. That's how I've been doing this podcast for 7, almost 8 years now. Taking notes wherever I take my notes and saying this is the topic for this week. If something happens this week, as in this week that you're watching this or viewing this podcast, and you're like, Ernest, you should be talking about it next week. How come you're talking about it the last week of May? Because it just so happens that the last week of May, I finally got around to putting it in my notes that I'm going to talk about this. But notice, I said the last week of May. May is next month. In fact, by the time you're viewing this, May is already probably here. So sometime within this month meaning May, if you're viewing this in May, that topic, whatever that is going to be covered. Not 3 to 5 years later, not 2 to 3, yeah, 2 to 3 years later, 3 to 5 years later. Not when I see that it is advantageous to talk about this thing, because I'm not that individual to the point where I'm going to keep my mouth shut about something until I see that there's an advantage to not keep my mouth shut about it. You know but Jarrod Carmichael didn't take that approach. Jarrod Carmichael 3 to 5 years ago was still a straight man. So when he was a straight man, and this doesn't make him look good at all, but when he was a straight man, he didn't feel the need to come to the defense of trans women, which is crazy because tons of straight men come to the defense of trans women or the queer community when they're done wrong. Hello. But anyways, like, just because you're not of the queer community doesn't mean that when you see someone doing wrong, if you truly feel that these are people who need defending, that you have to then shut up and wait and not speak on it because you're not of the community. That's dumb. Because in that sense, then if you are a black man, white folks or non-black folks should not come to our defense when they feel as though we are done wrong. If you're not a woman, then you shouldn't come to the defense of women because, oh, I'm not of that community. I'm not the female community. Like, it's that ideology is dumb. Jarrod stayed silent back then because maybe he was struggling with his sexuality. So he felt that if he came out and said something that was going to make him look gay, I guess, in quotation marks, or he felt it wasn't my thing is it wasn't even that. It wasn't advantage. It wasn't like he had no advantage to coming out and defending the trans community back then. But now with that he's come out, he wanted to attack Dave Chappelle again to impress the white folks, especially the white folks who got upset with Dave, especially the white queer community who were upset with Dave for the specials he did 3+ years ago. That to me does not scream real ally. That to me does not scream someone who, just because, yes, I said that his comments were comments that I do agree with. That does not mean that I am personally going to say that I believe he was right for saying them. Had he said them years ago when these specials first came out, I'd have a lot more respect and defense of Jarrod Carmichael than him saying that now. And again, these are comments that I agree with. So why do I not want to defend a man or feel as though side with a man who is saying something that I agree with? It's because the reason why he is saying it. He is not saying this in defense or why he said it. He did not say it in defense of the queer community or the trans community. He said that because he wanted to up his fame. I see through the bullshit, Jarrod. You can try. You can try again. You think you're the smartest person in the room, and you can keep thinking that. The smartest people in the room are the people who don't feel the need to prove how intelligent they are to everybody. It's actually the quite opposite. It's like the loudest person in the room feels the need to show everybody how tough or how bad or how great in quotation marks of a person they are, but they're usually and really the most insecure MFer in that MFer. Yeah. The same goes for these people who claim to be the smartest person in the room. I'm so smarter than you that I'm gonna explain things this way, and I everything that you say, everything I say that you disagree with, I'm just gonna say you don't understand it. Did my door just close on me? Or I know I got the window up. The wind is blowing. Anyways, we gonna continue. Now there are times where people say things that people disagree with. There are times where people misconstrue things that people say. I'm not saying these things do not happen. In this situation here, that is not the case though. The situation has been what I've been saying it has been for however long I've been talking now. But I'm still going to keep saying what I have to say. Jarrod went on the Breakfast Club. Not only did he defend and pretty much BS his answer to why he made the slave play joke, but he tried to defend himself and then say things like he regrets publicly calling out Dave Chappelle. That was probably the only true thing that I believe that he said was the fact that he regrets doing so. Why do I believe that? It's because Jarrod Carmichael is in between a rock and a hard place right now, and not in a sexual way that he wants it to be or may want it to be. Pause. All right. Jarrod Carmichael is not getting he's not getting any type of defense from the same queer community, especially the same white folks. Again, nobody's coming to his defense about shit. So his friends there, friends quotation marks, they're very silent about that. Tyler the Creator, although he agreed to do the replay their situation that they had, I still feel as though their relationship is probably at a rift at some moment because Tyler, whether he's gay or not, he doesn't want it. He's clearly not as out with his sexuality. With again, he's clearly not as out with his sexuality as his friend Jarrod is. You know, so that causes a rift there. Jarrod Carmichael still being a comedian, but calling out a comedian of a stature such as a Dave Chappelle is not a good look within a comedic world, especially people who are associated with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle don't even have to come out and say anything. But if Jarrod wants to knock down doors or make headway within his career as a comedian, he might run into people who are cool with Dave. Those people might say, I don't like the fact that you called out Dave years ago, by the way, years after he made those statements. And you did it to try to elevate your career, but it didn't necessarily elevate it to the point where you wanted it to because the white folks you tried to impress, they're not giving you everything that you thought you were going to get from it. And now you're coming over here and trying to get something. You dissed Dave Chappelle. So I paused there because somebody going ham on the motorcycle and I'm not trying to talk over. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Jarrod is in a situation right now to where he is doing damage control all by his lonesome. And I'm not laughing at the man's like struggle right now, but he put himself in this position. He did. Pause. But no, he put himself in this position. He did. You can be black and queer. There's other black queer comedians. And they don't feel the need to punch down on Dave Chappelle or and you can share your thoughts on Dave Chappelle as well. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have shared his thoughts on Dave. Like I stated before, what he said is what I agreed with. Eventually, Dave did do exactly what we pretty much said. Bro, joke about something else because it's getting tired over here. Like I saw what Dave did at the beginning, and I'm like, I get it. What the conversation you're trying to start, I understand it. This time, it just seems like the second go around, it was like, all right, whatever. Third go, it was like, all right, bro, like stop it. It's trash now. And that's what Jarrod was pretty much saying was like, bro, you can do better than this. I've seen you do better than this. Do something else. Don't tell me this is going to be your entire spew for the rest of your comedic careers to talk about the transgender community in this way. So again, don't disagree with the comments at all. Don't think that he should have kept them to himself. Well, at this point, yeah, he should have. Or at least he should have done it in a way to where it was like he said, called Dave himself, or said, or didn't say it in a stand-up special or whatever the case is. Now he's the artist in the situation. I've never been one to tell the artist, the creator in general, as a creative myself. I'm not gonna tell people what to do in that realm. But like I said, it wasn't a call out that was out of true care for the very people that you call yourself defending. It was because you try to use your newfound identity to try to garner more attention and praise from this community and from white folks and from the very people who attacked Dave Chappelle, and it still didn't work. So now you're in, oh my God, now I gotta apologize to Dave. Now I gotta explain myself with this slave joke. Now I gotta He got himself in these positions because of the decisions he made, because he thought this is what's going to get him over the hump. Pause. But no, this is what's going to get him over the hump as far as fame. Selling out his soul, going at his what he says he loves Dave Chappelle. He's a fan. He's like this is a someone that he idolizes. And as much as I don't really like the whole idolization of people, but this is somebody who, is again, you said that you don't have any ill feelings toward Dave, but you were willing to throw him under the bus for your personal gain. It just so happened that bus crumbled when it tried to run over Dave Chappelle. As if the bus like ran into Magneto or something. Like it was just like it didn't work at all. So now you're in apology mode and damage control. And you put yourself in your next position, Jarrod. Keep it real. Keep it real. That's what I loved the most about you when I first saw you. You kept it real. Kept it real in the sense that I'm not saying, oh, you kept it straight. Like I loved you because you were straight. No, you kept it real in the sense that no matter how you identified, who you kept it yourself. And I see this new you because you're allowing these white folks to get all in your ear, these same white folks that don't come to your defense but are telling you to do this, do that. And now you're not being who you genuinely are. You have when you're on the Breakfast Club, that was like the realest I've seen him. Well, not that. That wasn't it. When he did again, I think it was the Emmys when he did that whole thing roasting everybody. That was like the realest I've seen him and stuff, and that was cool. But when you're on the Breakfast Club, you're trying to have one foot in, one foot out. One foot in of this is who I really am, one foot out as this is who I want to be, surrounded by these white folks. Try not to step on anybody's toes while your foot is out. But that's not possible. When you are genuinely who you are, there are going to be people who don't like that, who don't want that. There are people who are going to benefit from you not being genuine. It just so happens the people that you want to be around are the very people who don't want you to be who you truly are. simply because they're telling you, yeah, celebrate your sexuality, yes, doesn't mean they truly care about who you are outside of being queer and outside of being able to exploit that. Outside of all of that, who are you? And do they truly care? My guess is no. But time will tell, and it is what it is. So we do still have more to talk about. So yeah, stay tuned.